Sunday, Monday, crappy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, crappy days. Thursday, Friday, crappy days. The weekend comes, you saucy bums, ready to rant with you. These days are ours, crappy and free, like crappy days. These days are ours, Gio and Bri, god damn it.
Goodbye quality, I don't know her.
Backstage drama and our pal Roger too. It had
hands, how
could it fail? It's an 8 out of 10 on the dire scale.
Sunday, Monday, crappy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, crappy days. Thursday, Friday, crappy days. Saturday, what a day. Scrolling through Tuesday with you. These days are ours. Suspiciously crappy days. These days are ours. Judiciously, oh God. These crappy days are yours and mine. These crappy days are yours and mine. Crappy days.
Hello guys, welcome to a very special episode of Lay Crap. My name is Bri.
Hey, what's up? My name's Gio.
So nostalgia is a very powerful thing until it isn't. Star Wars.
Damn.
I know. But for us, growing up in the 90s, there was two, I would say, popular nostalgia shows. There was, of course, That 70s Show, which had the nostalgia of the 70s, and then you have more, like, recent things, like with Stranger Things. But there was also, like, another popular show in syndication in the 90s, usually on, like, Nick at Night or TV Land, that covered the greatest time in America, if you were white, in the 1950s.
Yes, that of course would be Happy Days, which began syndication in 1974 on ABC.
You know what's, like, really weird about, like, Happy Days? Is that, and you know what, actually, this is me, like, thinking back, because I assume you, like me, watched a lot of, like, TV Land and, like, Nick at Night, where they regularly had, like, I Love Lucy on rotation, and now Nick at Night now is Friends and The Big Bang Theory. And it's not even that those are, like, shows that, like, aired on, like, CBS or they have, like, the syndication rights. Literally, those shows are now old enough to be nostalgic, and that's fucking terrifying.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But yeah, I did watch a lot of TV Land when I was a kid, probably more than any sane child should. That was where I first discovered the Golden Girls, which pretty much forged the bulk of my sense of humor even to this day. Yeah, I remember watching a bit of Happy Days, but like I didn't really remember that much about it except for, you know, the theme song, which is just one of those things that you listen to it once and you will never forget it.
Oh yeah, which we should probably specify because we do research and shit. I believe this was the theme song from season 2 onwards. The original theme for Happy Days, I believe, was Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley.
Yeah, that's right. Like, that iconic theme song didn't really kick in until season 2. Which, it's funny, like, a lot of the iconic stuff we remember about Happy Days really didn't sink in until, like, 2 or 3 seasons in.
Yeah, that's, like, so quirky and weird. And you know what? I'm just thinking about this now. Not having, like, a real theme song until season 2, I think actually wasn't that uncommon. Because, believe it or not, the Flintstones theme song didn't start, I think, until, like, season 2. Like, the first season, because I watched, like, the reruns on, like, MeTV and, like, other syndication, it used to be just a short instrumental.
I actually didn't know that. But I guess we should probably get into why we're talking about a syndicated TV show on this very, very in-depth podcast. This very cultured podcast about film. Well, it's because while there are a lot of fairly famous and infamous episodes of Happy Days, there's one that really, really, really stands out in terms of infamy and its influence on
the American lexicon.
Not just popular, but internet culture also. So before we get into that, let's talk about the origins of these days and what made them so happy. So, part one, Fonzie living, here we come. La 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 la.
God damn it.
So, Happy Days first began its syndication in 1974 on ABC. It was set in Milwaukee during the 1950s and 60s and centered on teenager Richie Cunningham, his friends, and his family. Richie Cunningham being portrayed by future director Ron Howard. Contrary to later seasons, it was only really a modest success in its first couple of seasons, so creator Gary Marshall opted to switch things up, putting more of a focus on situational comedy and putting much more focus on a side character who had proven to be very popular with fans. One Arthur Fonzarelli, aka the Fonz or Fonzie. Leather jacket wearing, smooth talking greaser and friend of Richie's, played by Henry Winkler. When I tell you that this guy, this greaser guy,
Yeah, this son of a bitch.
when Happy Days was airing and syndicated, Fonzie was everywhere. Like, this dude not only made Henry Winkler a star, but he was pretty much the picture of cool. It's like you ask anybody who grew up in that time what your image of cool is, they'll probably just show you a picture of Fonzie. Like, you look at any modern list of like the top TV show characters, the top sitcom characters of all time, Fonzie's going to be high up on that list. And the fact that he didn't even start out as like a major character is honestly kind of crazy. Like, he went from a side character in those earlier seasons to having more of a focus put on him in later seasons because of his popularity. And then in the later seasons after Ron Howard departed, Fonzie became the main character.
Which is crazy because here's like a fun fact. So the season that this particular episode aired was also the season that introduced the alien Mork, played by some dude. God, what was his name? Robin Williams. I wonder what happened to him. It's not like he had a generational career. No, like, poor guy.
Yeah, guess we'll never know what happened to that guy. But in any case, the move to more sitcom tropes and more focus on Greaser Boy was a pretty smart and successful one, as Happy Days became ABC's most popular show for many years after. Aired for a total of 11 seasons until 1984 and spawned several spin off shows. Some about as popular as Happy Days, others, not so much. But as I said before, Fonzie was massively popular, came to epitomize the concept of cool, and like his appearance, his mannerisms, his catchphrases are still repeated and mimicked in pop culture to this day. And I think like at some point during the show's run, like I forget if it was like the Smithsonian or like the American Film Institute, like asked Henry Winkler to donate one of his jackets.
Which is crazy as the show is still airing. That's nuts.
Oh, yeah. But with this kind of popularity and this kind of identification with a single character, it ends up being a bit of a double edged sword. Just as Adam West found out, Henry Winkler unfortunately also went through kind of a similar career trajectory after Happy Days ended, as pretty much everybody wanted to cast him as a greaser. He was so worried about this fact that he actually turned down roles to play a greaser in other things. Like, he turned down the role of Danny Zuko in Grease because of this. So, post Happy Days, at least initially, he found it difficult to find more work and shifted to more behind the scenes roles until the 90s when he started having a career resurgence.
I mean, to a lesser extent, I think Mark Hamill had like a similar thing, which he kind of sort of came out of with doing like lots of voiceover that Luke Skywalker isn't the sole thing that he's known for, but like post, Return of the Jedi live action wise, you didn't really see him in too many like projects that weren't like Star Wars related.
Outside of the smash hit that was The Guyver.
I know, yeah, the smash critical success. Box office, breaker. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that someone just kind of hits like omega levels of stardom and then they're just like so associated with that role that it's hard to break out of. You know, it's very rare that you kind of have like a Daniel Radcliffe or an Elijah Wood situation where they manage to have very successful and like very like wide variety in terms of roles in their career. But it's not even for like a lack of talent. It's just sometimes that's how it pans out.
I feel like an example of that, of like not being solely identified with one character, would be somebody like Harrison Ford, which I think was helped out by the fact that his two most iconic roles were like so close together, being both Han Solo and Indiana Jones, and he still ended up being, I think, pretty consistently put into different roles, like in The Fugitive.
Oh yeah, or even in more recent stuff, like he's hilarious on Shrinking.
Yeah, like it's curious that some guys manage to break out of that like single character identification and others struggle more with it.
But yeah, but there's more to this story, right?
Oh, yes. Now that we've talked about the show itself, let's talk about the episode in question that's brought us here today. Part 2. Well, actually, it's part 3. Hollywood Part 3, as a matter of fact, which was the third episode of season 5, which first aired in 1977. So, to give a little context, since this is a part 3, in the first two parts, Hollywood talent agents descend upon Milwaukee, and impressed by the Fonzie being, you know, the Fonzie, they invite him out to California for auditions, accompanied by the rest of the cast. In the midst of this, a local a-hole by the name of the California Kid, yes, really, challenges Fonzie to a water skiing duel. And if the mention of water skis hasn't triggered your fight or flight response yet, and this next part will, as in the third episode, Fonzie is challenged to jump over a shark while riding on water skis, which he does, all while still draped in his trademark leather jacket. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about the infamous Jumping the Shark episode of Happy Days. Now, while I was doing research for this, I dug up a few interesting nuggets where, contrary to what you would think given its later reputation, it was actually a rating success. And in a 2006 interview, Ron Howard recounted when he first read the script for this, and he remembered co-star Danny Most saying things like, "Oh man, look at what our show has devolved into. It's not even funny, and you know, Fonzie is jumping over a shark."
But here's like the crazy thing is that the show ran for 6 more fucking seasons after that.
That's the thing. But to give a bit more backstory to how this whole jumping over the shark came about, the stunt was actually conceived to take advantage of Winkler's IRL experience being a water ski instructor. He actually did all the skiing himself, save for the actual jump, which was done by a professional water skier. Now, it's crazy that it caused this much of a stir years later, because it kind of just came and went when it first aired.
Oh, I don't think people in the 70s were as jaded as.
Yeah, no. Not as much cynicism back then as there is now. But what it was, I think, a bit of a harbinger of more absurd plot elements, because, as you had alluded to earlier, the Mork episode came out later this same season. So while it wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back for Happy Days, as again, it would still run for 7 more years after this, but it wasn't until years later that this episode would gain its infamy. Part 3. Fonz the Revenge. So, jumping the shark as a term was first coined in response to the episode by radio personality John Hain in 1985. In 1997, Hain created JumpTheShark.com, which was sort of a proto-TV trope, where he would list several shows that he thought had jumped the shark and listed his reasons why, and also gave a platform for users to debate and talk about shows that they thought had jumped the shark. Now, if you're one of the 5 people out there who has never heard this term in their life, one, I would like to know what bubble you live in.
Yeah, I would too.
And where I can find it. But for anybody who has absolutely no idea what we're talking about, Jumping the shark is a phrase used to denote the moment when a once popular TV show does something drastic or absurd that completely pivots from the original tone and purpose of the show, that is seen as a act of desperation to get ratings or just a sign that the writer's room has run out of ideas. Gives way to absurd plots, changing characters, and it's pretty much become a caricature, which is then followed by a decline in ratings and quality and the eventual cancellation, which is, again, really weird when it comes to this episode, because, again, by everybody's own account, it was a ratings hit. Again, the show continued on for 6 more seasons after this. And when you ask the cast members, like, decades later, even Winkler himself pretty much downplayed the episode's reputation and said, the show went on for years after this. It was a strong ratings hit. And there was probably other episodes later on in the show's lifetime that would probably be better suited for that moniker of, being the moment that everything started to fall apart. But Winkler himself isn't really ashamed of the phrase and even appreciates how the picture that they use of him in his leather jacket on the water skis shows off his great legs that he had back then. Then in 2005, Winkler appeared on an episode of Arrested Development where his character jumped over a shark. And he would go on to note afterward that he became the only actor in history ever to jump the shark twice.
Bravo. I mean, that is great. Which, God, I think I actually have to watch Arrested Development from, like, the beginning because Lucille Bluth is honestly my spirit animal.
Yeah, I'm going to have to give it a watch sometime if that's the kind of meta humor they've taught.
Yeah, you can watch the Russos before they became fucking washed.
Oh, God. But, like, here's the thing. Like, jumping the shark as a concept has kind of evolved to the point where now there's, it's funny I mentioned Harrison Ford earlier, considering that he's involved with what many believe to be the movie version of Jumping the Shark, Nuking the Fridge. Y'all remember Nuking the Fridge, right? That moment in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull where Indy survives a nuclear explosion by hiding in a fridge.
Oh, God. The crazy thing is, I actually saw it in theaters. And I don't think my brain, like, fully communicated, like, how fucking stupid that was. Or just the whole movie was so stupid that didn't even register.
I mean, it's like the hoops that you gotta go through mentally to try to justify that. But between that and another concept that's widely used, especially in relation to longer running shows like Happy Days, is the concept of flanderization, where a character in a long running show basically becomes a caricature of themselves, where they went from like a more well-developed, well-rounded character to just basically having one character trait that's re-emphasized to an extreme degree. It's most identified with The Simpsons, but it could also apply to stuff like, I don't know, Family Guy and SpongeBob. Y'all remember the times before SpongeBob was like hyper obsessed with Squidward to an uncomfortable degree? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
You know what? Like, SpongeBob, I kind of mildly disagree with that, because I think that's more that SpongeBob's character, just between different writers, has just changed so much. Like, season 1 SpongeBob is not like season 13 SpongeBob. Like, it's not even that it's to an extreme. I feel like the show overall, like, it's just evolved to be like where the kids are now, because the guys on, like, the earlier seasons of SpongeBob were, like, guys from, like, Rocco. And then you later had, people like, CH, Greenblatt, and, like, a couple other notable people from, like, the animation industry. But I would, honestly, the flanderization, I would say less SpongeBob and honestly, like, more Patrick. I think that would be, like, more applicable. Because Patrick was, like, stupid, but he's just been, like, put stupid to the point of, like, dude, how the fuck do you get out of bed?
Yeah, and I think there was even, like, one moment in the later seasons where he even admitted that he's not even really that stupid. He just does it on purpose to keep things exciting. Something like that.
I mean, at least that's honest.
But I think probably the most egregious example on SpongeBob would probably be Sandy. She basically turned into a mad scientist, like, yeah, she always kind of had, like, the scientific interest, but it wasn't, like, her one thing.
I will say in the later seasons, they've kind of rectified that by giving her, like, more of a girl group that she hangs out with sometimes. So she hangs out with, like, Pearl and, like, Mrs. Puff. And then, like, some of the
Oh, the
newer
criminals.
characters. Yeah. You know, they kind of have given her, like, more, like, less SpongeBob-centric plots.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, yeah, and then there's Mr. Krabs, who is like, yeah, he's always been greedy. That's always been his thing. But you still got the sense, like in earlier seasons, that he still like cared about SpongeBob and even felt guilty about selling his soul for 62 cents. Later seasons, you would believe that Mr. Krabs would shoot his own mother for a penny,
like a true capitalist.
which isn't even useful anymore.
Oh yeah, rip.
But anyway, happy days. You want to start the app?
Oh yeah. So thankfully we found it through legal means because I didn't feel like shopping at the Krusty Krab tonight. So as always, me and Gio are gonna go watch the thing. I'll probably play a clip because I seriously doubt they did like a TV promo for it. Maybe they did. I'll have to search through the dumpsters of YouTube for that. But when we come back, we'll give you our thoughts.
It says, Dear Al, life is funny. We came over here for Fonzie's screen test, but Fonzie didn't get it. They liked my apple pie face instead. I'm having trouble deciding if I should sign the movie contract, but Fonzie took it well. He's happy because he tied the California Kid, the local water skiing champ, in a slalom race. You should have seen Fonz. He was something else. So far, we didn't see any movie stars, but we met a guy who thinks he's Jack Benny. And we saw a real live shark that they have penned up here to take to Marineland. Potsy Ralph, Joni, Mom and Dad are all having a fun time. My social life is fine. I met a wonderful girl named Nancy. I'm gonna meet her now. See you soon, Richie.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you Gary Marshall's A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh my god. You know, low-key, I would probably watch that, but you would have to get Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews just to really complete the set, I think.
You know, for as notorious as this episode is, the actual jumping the shark moment only really takes up half the episode.
Yeah, like, it's so clearly, like, the B plot, and it was meant to be the silly thing. And as you watch it, the amount of times they say shark, like, clearly, like, no one is taking this seriously.
Oh yeah, they have to say the phrase jumping the shark or like some order of jump and shark like 20 times in the whole runtime. Like, it's almost like they knew.
Rich, come quick. What, is there something wrong? It's a shark. The Fonz got eaten by a shark?
He did? Who said that?
Not me. What are you talking about, Rich?
Well, you just said a shark.
Listen, Fonz is gonna jump over a shark.
Oh, here we go.
Snap out of it,
Oh,
Rich. Fonz is
no.
gonna jump over a shark.
Oh, I don't get it.
Okay, Rich, read my lips. Fonzie wants you. The California Kid challenged him, and they're gonna jump over a shark net. You get to drive Fonzie.
Shark? Is he crazy? Shark. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Stupid, yes. Also dumb, but it's something I gotta do.
Fonz, you're not jumping over garbage cans on a bike. You're jumping over a shark. On nothing, on a couple of little skis. One little slip and chomp, chomp, chomp.
Thanks a lot for your support. Look, I was challenged. I gotta jump.
Challenge? The guy's bluffing. He's not gonna jump over some shark.
That's right, he was bluffing, huh? All right, let me tell you something. That's another reason I gotta jump. Because that punk is trying to take a free ride.
Look, you already tied him and his championship patches. So why can't you just drop it?
I have to meet his bluff. I ain't going back to Milwaukee a double failure. Now, are you coming? Let's go. Girls.
I love,
So,
like, the
Prince
short
Companion, are you
shorts,
ready?
and I love how serious
Are
they're
you
taking
actually
it. Like,
gonna
this
do
is,
it?
like, some
Yeah.
serious
Are you-
melodrama.
Yeah. Well, look, since you had a condition on this
I love the
type,
fact that he just snaps his
I got
fingers
one.
and his entire entourage
Go
is just
ahead.
like, yes,
you go
Fonzie.
first. That way when you jump and fall, that little shark ain't gonna be so hungry when I go.
But it's like so weird that something that was just basically like a minor B plot in like a 3-part, I don't know if arc would be the right word, but like a 3-episode like story beat, because like the main plot involves Ron Howard's character deciding if he wants to continue to go to college, which he's already registered for, or if he signs like this acting contract, but it's a 5-year contract.
Yeah, like that really forms the emotional core of it. And like the whole thing of like Fonzie jumping the shark, it's like half the episode happens, then it goes to commercial break, comes back, and then it just wraps up the actual shark jumping.
Yeah, like to me, it felt more like they couldn't figure out a plot for Fonzie, and they're like, "Well, we're at beach. You want to like water ski?" And Henry Winkler went, "Okay."
Yeah, I can envision something like that happening. So I guess we'll do the plot summary, which it's going to be brief because again, this was only like a 20-minute sitcom episode and not like a 2-hour movie.
And thankfully for us, the first 2 episodes are lovingly recapped by what is it, Al?
Oh yeah. So the first couple of minutes is Al, the restaurant owner, or the diner owner, really, and Chachi,
Yeah, future asshole Scott Baio.
who I actually read that he was actually introduced like 2 episodes before this, but
Yeah, season 5 of Happy Days was on some shit, I guess.
yeah, so episode starts with Al and Chachi getting a postcard from Richie out in California, wherein he basically just recaps the entire plot line of the first couple of episodes, where the important things are that Fonzie was challenged to a water skiing competition by this California kid guy, and then like skied him to a draw. And then, like, the acting thing that the Fonzie had gone there for, he was turned down for it, and they wanted Richie instead. So then it goes back over to California, where Richie has met, I think, who goes on to be, like, his girlfriend, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, God, it's probably been years since I watched Happy Days, but honestly, I will say it's a little, like, clunky, but honestly, using a postcard to do, like, an episode recap isn't, like, the worst idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like it as more of an in-universe way than, say, just going, like, previously on.
Yeah, at least there's a little bit more effort.
So we go back to the beach with Richie and Nancy talking. She mentions that she's going like on a excursion, like a boat study, because I think she's studying marine biology. And also, pretty much the main crux of what we were laughing at is that throughout this whole episode, Richie is garbed in this really, really blinding, like red and blue striped shirt that I swear to God makes him look like a young Freddy Krueger.
I mean, if it was worn by current day Ron Howard, you could make a case.
And then I put forward the idea of what if Happy Days all along was just a Nightmare on Elm Street prequel. And now I'm Freddy Krueger.
Now I'm in Hollywood.
God damn.
You know, with how the plot's played out, it wouldn't be too out of the question for Happy Days to turn out to be a Freddy Krueger origin story.
You know, that's scary that I agree with you.
You're my son, and you've never given me cause to be anything but proud.
All right, Dad, that settles it. I'm moving to Elm Street.
Damn it. And I'm gonna work at an elementary school.
Oh, he just wears that same shirt the whole episode.
And you know what? I don't hate that idea. Like, I think that's actually valid and would make a lot of canonical sense.
I mean, later on this same season, we'd be introduced to an alien. So, I mean, anything's possible in this universe.
True.
But anyway, after they split up, Richie gets told that Fonzie was challenged by California Kid again. And that this time they're going to jump over a shark, which, again, they repeat jump and shark multiple times throughout the entire episode, so you do not forget what the crux of the B plot is.
Oh yeah, no, they make sure you do not forget.
So, like, even Richie at first was like, jumping the shark, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And it's like Ron Howard is foreseeing the future. So he tries to talk Fonzie out of it. Fonzie's like, nah, man, I gotta accept this child. And they take it like weirdly seriously.
Shark. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Stupid, yes. Also dumb, but it's something I gotta do. Fonz, you're not jumping over garbage cans on a bike. You're jumping over a shark. On nothing, on a couple of little skis. One little slip and chomp, chomp, chomp.
Thanks a lot for your support.
Look, you already tied him and his championship patches. So why can't you just drop it?
I have to meet his bluff. I ain't going back to Milwaukee a double failure. Now, are you coming? Let's go.
It's weird. Like, I don't know if they take it seriously just to play it up for the studio audience or like the laugh track or whatever they used. I can't remember. Was Happy Days a canned laugh track or was it a studio audience?
You know what's weird is I think this episode they did both. So I think they used a laugh track for like the scenes in Hollywood, but then like when they came back to the diner, it was a live studio audience, and that's why like the audience applauded when like the main cast walked back in at the end.
That would make sense because like they were screaming.
Yeah, so I think it was just a mixture of both for this episode. So Fonzie and his entourage of girls who like all stand up as soon as he snaps his fingers. It's like I need to see what this man's level is on the power scaling wiki.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, just in this episode alone, he displays, like, a subtle mind control ability and also the ability to turn on electricity with just a flick of his hands, which I think is, like, actually an established gag from the show.
Like, dude is probably the progenitor of, like, aura farming.
Like, it gets a little ridiculous, but I think that's the whole point. So he goes up to California Kid. Yes, they never give him a real name. He's just the California Kid. And he's just like, all right, I'm going to jump over the shark, but you're going to do it first. California Kid looks a little terrified, but then he's like, all right, I'll do it. And then we go over to the actual stunt. And what this is that they have a tiger shark in what appears to be a net and then a ramp next to it. But, like, here's the weird thing. So this is clearly, like, supposed to be, I wouldn't even really say deep water, but at least water that's deep enough that you wouldn't be able to stand on it. But the footage they use of the tiger shark is really freaking shallow.
Yeah, so, which, by the way, this shark is quote-unquote in quarantine for Marineland, and I had brought this up, I have questions. It's like, but if there's motorboats there, like, isn't that dangerous for the shark? And, like, wouldn't there be, like, oil and, like, other shit in the water? And also they might clip the shark. And then, like, second of all, like, why is the shark that close to people? But then again, maybe I'm just asking questions that are too deep for Happy Days.
Yeah, I think it's the latter option, honestly.
But you pointed out it was a tiger shark. And obviously, so this episode came out in 1977. So obviously, with, like, the music riff, they're kind of doing, like, a light parody of, like, Jaws.
Oh, yeah. Even, like, the cinematography and, like, the shots on the beach were very, very, I would say, at least influenced by Jaws. And here's the other thing. It's not a great white, but a tiger shark is still very, very dangerous.
It's arguably more dangerous than a great white in terms of, like, human things. Because aren't, like, tiger sharks... Isn't that, like, the species that, like, tends to bite the most people, or at least have the most, like, incidents in terms of, like, limb loss?
I want to say in terms of attacks, I think bull sharks are actually number one on that list. I mean, I would have to look up the stuff about the limb loss, but in terms of attacks, I think bull sharks are, like, at the very top. But tiger sharks, in terms of, like, human attacks, I would say probably top 3.
Yeah, like, great whites, because, I mean, the amount of times they'd actually encounter, like, humans, like, because they live way farther out to sea, because most of what they consume are, like, seals and stuff. Like, usually a great white wouldn't have any interest in like a human being or can like tell the difference, because I think maybe there's only been like a small handful of like fatalities of a great white shark, which I think we brought this up on the Yellow Fangs episode. But the actual incident that inspired Jaws happened over in New Jersey in like the early 1900s. And that's where the whole great white thing came from. But more than likely, it probably was either like a bull or a tiger shark that allegedly ate or like drowned like these young men that unfortunately lost their lives in like I don't even think it was like open ocean. It was more like a lagoon area.
Yeah, if it was a more like shallow lagoon area or even like brackish water, it would probably be a bull shark. Because like in terms of like the super dangerous sharks, they're the only ones that would be able to like withstand the fresh water for any length of time. But in any case, yeah, this whole jumping the shark fiasco. So California kid wusses out at the last minute. Young Freddy Krueger tells Fonzie, "Hey, you don't gotta go through with it. He forfeited." Fonzie's like, "Nah, I'm still tied with him. I still gotta go through with it."
Yeah, I gotta show that I got the balls.
Fonzie gotta show that he got the brass balls on him. So Richie drives the boat. Fonzie in his freaking leather jacket, which, by the way, in the scene on the beach where they're talking about, Fonzie doesn't have to go through with it, and then Fonzie says, "No, I still have to go through with it." He didn't have his jacket on, and for a moment I didn't know who he was until he opened his mouth.
Yeah, like he just has like his white shirt and like his swim shorts on, which by the way, that was actually surprisingly smart of them, because like back then they didn't know about skin cancer, so I don't know, that was good on them. They probably, if they were real people, didn't get skin cancer because they actually covered their body.
Yeah, so it really goes to show like how iconic that leather jacket is, that if you take it off him, he just looks like a completely different person. But in any case, he starts up on the skis and they spend a long time driving up to this shark.
Oh yeah, they build it up so they can cut the commercial.
Oh yeah, like I think there's one moment where it's like a solid like 20 plus seconds just focusing on Fonzie on the water skis.
Yeah, perfectly like uncut.
Where, hey, at least we get a good sight of those great legs of his. But yeah, they spend a good amount of time on this. And right as he's about to get to the ramp, commercial break. God.
Oh, here it comes.
He put his jacket on specifically for this. Boy, they're really hanging on this shot of him skiing, aren't they?
Here we go, Fonz. I'm heading for the ramp. Are you sure you want to do it?
Oh, the still frame.
The Ed Sullivan Show.
And then when we come back, he jumps the shark. But let me tell you about the moment that he actually jumps over. So the angle that they show it from, it doesn't even look like he jumps over it. He jumps like almost to the side of it.
Yeah, he's jumping adjacent to the shark. And I don't know if that's because obviously there wasn't a real shark. It was just like a crew guy and they just had like a plastic fin or whatever. But I almost kind of wonder if like the place had moved because of the wakes.
I would guess that it would probably be something like that, and they just didn't want to reshoot and do that whole sequence all over again. So they were just like, all right, let's just try to edit around it. But like, I posed the question that the debate has always been, did Han shoot first? I think the debate should actually be, did the Fonz actually jump the shark? And in my honest opinion, I would say no.
Look at that shark, Pots. Yeah. How could you accept the challenge?
What do you mean, look at that shark? How can you even see it from up there?
I know. It's okay.
Like, all you can see from up there is what I assume is a cardboard cutout of the fin.
He's really gonna do it!
He's ready to make
My
the
God,
jump.
how long has he been driving towards the shark? Shark's gonna get bored and be like, all right, I'm heading down to the Poconos. Fuck y'all.
There he goes.
There he goes. It doesn't even look like he jumps over it. It's like he jumps to the side of it. You know, I don't think the debate should be, did Han shoot first? I think the debate should be, did the Fonz actually jump over the shark?
Or did he jump adjacent to it?
Jumping beside the shark.
Yeah, like, honestly, here's like the weird thing. Because you think of jumping the shark, I think you think more of like the parodies of it. Because I remember that 70s show, I think they actually did like a parody of it, but it was like over like a pool or like a tank. Like, there's been plenty of sitcoms that have like parodied Jump the Shark. I mean, even cartoons. Like, at this point, it's become a trope in itself outside of like the lexicon thing.
Yeah, because I remember, I think it was Mad TV that did like a parody of Happy Days where it was just in Spanish and they did the jumping the shark or jumping El Shark.
Damn it. Now I'm thinking of Miss Kwan.
He look like a man.
God damn it.
All right, ma'am, did you see the shark? Yeah, he look like a man, you know?
God, I miss
All right,
Mad TV. Like, so much of it is like not kosher now, but I'm like, that was good shit.
Yeah, that was the good shit. Back when Comedy Central actually gave a shit.
Yeah, well, I think it was on Fox. It just, but anyway, back to Happy Days.
Oh yeah, back to these happy days.
These happy periods of time where it is light outside.
Yeah, these periods of time where it is light outside and the mood is described as positive or joyful. So Fonzie gets out of the water. They do the, rah, 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 congrats thing. And then this is only like half the episode. Like, the rest of the crux of this whole episode is like Richie debating whether he should sign the Hollywood contract and give up on college or spend 5 years in Hollywood where it's not even like guaranteed that he'll get acting gigs. And, they have the whole, like, emotional beat scene with his dad, and then he ultimately decides to, like, chuck the contract into the ocean with the shark. Like, him and Fonzie have, like, the little moments, and then they go back to Milwaukee with Mini Fonz Chachi.
Yeah, that's the greatest sin of this episode, and really this season, is that it thrusts Scott Baio upon the world.
Oh. So they go back, they give Al all these gifts after he was acting like weirdly, I don't know how to describe this.
Well, it would be funny then, but I guess now, because we live in hellscape times, he would very much be the dude that would drink raw milk. I'm just saying. He would be friends with Zachary Levi. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like, moving on. So they give him his gifts. They give him like a Mickey Mouse cap, and like everybody walks out. Fonzie walks back into the picture. And by the way, inside of this establishment, there's a big picture of the Fonz on the wall that says "Our Star, the Fonz" or something like that. And it's like very visible throughout this entire scene. And like at the end, like,
yeah, at the end it actually kind of gets a little like emotional for Fonzie. Like, he kind of lets his guard down, is a little bit emotional, and thinks about splitting it in half, because I think deep down, at least the implication was, he did really want the acting thing.
Yeah, because like earlier on, it's like part of his motivation for why he wanted to jump the shark was that he even said it himself I don't want to go home to Milwaukee, a double failure. And like he rips the poster off the wall and it looks like he's going to break it over his knee, but then he like collects himself and just gives off one last A. And then the episode ends. But like for that briefest of moments, it looked like the Fonz was actually putting, the cool shield down. And like, since nobody was looking, he was actually gonna be like real and emotional about it.
But yeah, that was Jumping the Shark, aka Hollywood Part 3.
And honestly, it was a sitcom episode.
Yeah, it very much like, this is definitely a sitcom episode that aired in the late 1970s. I mean, it's fine, but it's kind of like weird. I mean, because so much of these things are like common tropes now, but to kind of see them in their unaltered state is kind of a little bit of an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, it's like we recognize this stuff more now, but if you would watch this at the time, you really probably wouldn't bat an eye at it.
No, and also I think that's just the period of time, because this is around the same time as like the Paul Lynde Halloween special. Like, yeah, I mean, there was stuff politically like, Watergate and like Vietnam happening in like the earlier part of the decade, but I do feel like people overall were less cynical, and we hadn't been hit by Reaganomics yet, so there was still hope.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like something like this, I think could only really exist in the 70s, where you have something like Fonzie jumping over a shark in his fucking leather jacket, and nobody really bats an eye, and nobody really did bat an eye for like years after the show had stopped airing.
Yeah, really, it was like many terrible things really started from the fucking internet.
And like just looking at it now, it's like it's weird that it gained the notoriety that it did, considering the fact that the jumping the shark moment only really takes up half the episode and isn't even really like the main emotional crux of it.
No, like it's having not watched the first 2 episodes, but like the recap, it's clearly that this is just like the wrap up to like Fonzie's like plot arc.
Yeah, where it's like, obviously he's frustrated that he didn't get the acting gig, which was the whole point of them going to Hollywood in the first place, but at least he goes home with like some kind of moral win.
And a story to tell. Say, hey, remember that one time I jumped the shark? That was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's just crazy that this wasn't even the most important character beat of the whole episode, but it's what the episode is most notorious for.
Which, again, I don't think it would have ever really been that level of, like, notoriety if it hadn't been that Happy Days was, like, rerunning in syndication in the 90s to, like, a whole new audience, and then the early stages of the modern internet.
Yeah, because, like, the episode itself, post shark jumping, just kind of goes like I would imagine any other episode of Happy Days would go. And judging from what the cast and crew would say like later on, is like there would be other episodes that you could point to as more of the moment that Happy Days started to decline. Because again, the show would go on for 6 more seasons after this. Like any other moment where you would say that a show jumped the shark, like the decline would come like much quicker, but it didn't.
Usually, like, if you have a true jump the shark moment, usually you're done in, like, a season or 2 after that.
Yeah, but as it is, like, the show wasn't even halfway through its run at that point.
No, like, because according to dialogue, like, they literally just finished high school.
Honestly, if it wasn't for that lightning in a bottle moment of somebody seeing this episode and making a whole website dedicated to it, honestly, this episode probably wouldn't even be that remembered at all. And like the most significant part of season 5 would be, and I would say honestly still is, the first appearance of Robin Williams.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it's like crazy. I feel like so many people forget that technically that's a Happy Days spinoff. Because when you think of Happy Days spinoff, you think of the other one that was mercifully cut short.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
But yeah, this was just like a weird like thing, because like I don't think I have as much nostalgia for Happy Days as I did, of like I Love Lucy, and maybe to a lesser extent Bewitched, but I just vividly remember more of Lucy.
Yeah, like for me, it was like the Golden Girls and like Sanford and Son were like the stuff I was more into. Like I do remember watching a few episodes of Happy Days, but nothing really like stuck out, aside from the theme song.
Yeah, like my vivid memory is like that I remember that I saw Happy Days or was on the background was it was between like that because I think back in the 90s, usually Happy Days was like paired with like Gilligan's Island because they had like similar tones. And I remember being in my great aunt's basement with like the cousins in like North Philly. So like that's like my association with it is like, mothballs and like the basement.
Yeah, my association with, well, TV Land as a whole was just, that was pretty much my summer, was just staying over at my grandparents' house and watching a bunch of reruns on TV Land and then listening to four old ladies living in Florida having kooky hijinks. And then decades later, going to a zoo in Philadelphia where four newborn tortoises were named after them.
God damn it. That's right.
But yeah, the episode itself is like, any other sitcom episode. It just so happens that it includes a moment that would
Live in infamy.
that would live in infamy.
But yeah, I think the actual episode itself is like fine. Like, out of context, not knowing what's going on, I would say it's like a 7 out of 10. It's like the emotional core is there, but it's just like, it's fucking Happy Days. Like, what are you expecting?
Yeah, just like as a normal episode by itself, it's just like, an episode. If you didn't know like what would spawn from it, you would just say, it's just a normal episode.
Because I think, I don't think that was a season 5 premiere, but it was just like a random, like, mid-season thing.
Actually, it was the third episode of season 5, so technically it was the season 5 premiere.
Okay, it was? Alright, I wasn't 100% sure. But it's kind of crazy that they still kind of do this, well, not just like sitcoms, but even some like modern TV shows like 911, which arguably I would say have way more intense jumping the shark moments than fucking Happy Days did. Because I have to have you watch some episodes of 911 sometimes because there's some shit you wouldn't believe. Like, would you believe me that it's not even one of the top 10 craziest fucking things that happen in the show is if Angela Bassett like is landing a full-size passenger jet on like a highway in California.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, in terms of like things devolving into absurdity, I don't think anything from Happy Days is ever going to surpass just a random episode of like Riverdale.
Or like the classic Ryan Murphy special.
It's like, I never watched an episode of Riverdale, but just from what I hear about it, it's fucking insane.
Like, when? Not even the most insane moments of your show. It's like everyone having like mass episodes of epilepsy, just like a giant bunch of like seizures, and that's not even the fucking craziest thing that fucking happens.
And bear in mind, this is a show based on fucking Archie. God, Archie has gotten freaking weird. Like, I watched a YouTube video talking about like all these random like comics of Archie meets the Punisher or Archie meets the Predator, and it's like this shit's gotten fucking weird.
It has. But you know what? These days, I feel like if we are on the subject of Archie and like episodes, we got to do an episode of Sabrina at some point. The Melissa Joan Hart series.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Which I think people forget that Sabrina was like a spin-off of Archie.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people forget that because like the Sabrina the Teenage Witch TV show is like so self-contained, and then you have the goat Salem.
Oh my god, yes. The original sassy pants himself.
Which, by the way, the funny thing is when I was older, I clocked that Salem and Norbert, from Angry Beavers were the same person. And that kind of fucking blew my mind.
Oh, God, Sam. Yeah, we gotta do something with Sabrina the Teenage Witch at some point.
I don't even know if I still have it or if it's, like, packed away, but I was in a big Barbie cosplayer or whatever, but I absolutely loved my officially licensed Barbie doll of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Like, so it was like Sabrina, and then you had like Harvey paired with her, but then they had like Salem in like a magic locker that had like a little mechanism, so like Salem would disappear in the locker like it was magic. That was probably the only doll I played with as a kid, because I remember I had that, and I also played it with like one of the baby Zillas, I think, from like Godzilla '98. So yeah, that tracks for me.
Yeah, that definitely tracks. But yeah, jumping the shark. That was a thing that happened, and yeah. And then Richie Cunningham would go on to move to Elm Street years later, and then nothing significant would happen after that.
Nope, nothing at all. Hey, let's get out of here, Gio. Where can everyone find you on the social medias?
Hey, so if you fancy a good old time talking about, all this newfangled VTuber stuff, you can just go and mosey on down to my blue sky at captainstarbolt.bsky.social if you so choose. I'm not forcing you or anything, because the Fonz don't play that way. Fonz is more of a caregiver.
Yeah, totally. And also, I don't play either. But if you want to see the cool shit that I got going down, you can follow me at crazylima.bsky.social. I'm also on this new app called Instagram at Lima's Rule 1, where you could see pics of my dog. She's cool. But anyway, that wraps up another episode of Late Crap, and next episode, it's gonna be a really special one because it's June and it's Pride Month, and I found the perfect movie. But until next time, we'll see y'all later.
Hey.
Oh wait, is that the Super S? I saw the S symbol. There it is. It's the Super S.
Oh boy, the symbol that you find on every high school bathroom.